the thing that we try to hide is actually the thing that we should showcase more. And that was a light bulb moment for me, because I was like, straight away, the thing that I'm trying to hide is me being shy.
Welcome to Who Cares About My Story, the podcast on how sharing your personal brand story can impact your business. We will explore the perks and also the behind-the-scenes challenges of figuring out what to share. I'm your host, Reme Mancera, a personal brand strategist who loves finding the story connectors that illustrate the benefits of what you offer. And by the way, you don't need a Hollywood style for that. In case you ever wonder, remember, your story is relevant and worth telling. Hey there! So glad to present you today's episode. Our guest is Ilaria Sambi, a ThriveCart specialist who creates systems, funnels, and automations to help introvert business owners sell more without being loud or being online all the time. During our conversation, she recalls some bold moves like relocating to a new country and pivoting her career multiple times. Ilaria talks about the challenges she faced in a toxic work environment and how that impacted her decision to start her own business. She also explains the power of accepting her introverted nature. She used to hide it, thinking it was a weakness, but now sees it as a strength and part of her mission. Ilaria mentions how her scientific background has helped her to be open to experimenting and trying new things in life and in business, being aware of taking risks and accepting the consequences, like the time she had to pivot back. Learn how Ilaria found an effective way to communicate and tell her story as an introvert. Get ready to be inspired for her self-discovery journey in business. Now, let's start. Hello, welcome to Who Cares About My Story. Hello, Ilaria, and thank you for being here. I am delighted that we are going to have this conversation.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So let's start by asking you to please tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you. So I am Ilaria Sambi. I am Italian, but I live in the UK, and I've been living here for nearly 15 years. I am currently a ThriveCart expert. I help introvert entrepreneurs create their online courses and funnels so they can sell online without being online all the time and without being loud. This is my mission.
Nice. And yeah, I noticed this without being loud, and I think that could resonate with a lot of people.
Yes, I think so. It did resonate with me once I heard it, and that was actually a pivotal moment for me when I thought about this sentence and this phrase. It really hit and resonated with me.
Nice. So tell us a bit about how did you get here? So what has been your journey?
Yeah, so starting from not the beginning, but let's say the beginning of my career, my background is science. I am a scientist, and I worked for 10 years for a big multinational product company that is everywhere in the world. So I actually moved from Italy, where I'm from, to the UK to work for this company. And I originally wanted to stay just for 6 months. My contract was 6 months, and then I really loved it here. I don't know if you've ever been to Liverpool, but I love it. I fell in love with the city, the vibe. I come from Milan, so it's very different. Coming from Milan is like coming from London. So it's a completely different like lifestyle. Everybody was very chill, very kind. Not that in Milan people are not kind, but it was very different for me. So I loved it. I wanted to stay. Then the job was okay at first. So I just wanted to stay in the UK. So that was my objective. Then my contract kept being renewed, and then I was offered a permanent contract. The problem was that I started having problems with managers. So my job that was like a good job for my degree started becoming something a bit toxic. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I had a manager who really was really lowering my confidence. One of those people he wasn't probably happy with himself, so he was like taking it back on us, on our like younger scientists. And that really hit my confidence at first, because I was really convinced that I was good, but this person made me feel like I wasn't. Um, so then, but I kept going, because, once I was here, I was already like away from my family. I didn't really know what I wanted from life. And I showed everybody, part of me was, didn't want to disappoint the people who were in Italy, who saw me like, leaving everything and traveling. I didn't want to say, no, it's actually not as good as I thought, and either go back home or doing something else. So I kept going, and in like a snapshot, it became 10 years. I don't know how I stayed for 10 years without really enjoying any of it. Sorry, you just interrupt me. I keep going, because like it's just the story flows like this. But if you want to ask questions, obviously, I'm gonna answer. So what happened is that the pivotal moment was having my first daughter. She was born in 2018. I took maternity leave, obviously, for a year from my job. And I knew I wanted to use this time not just to bond with my daughter, but to create something, but I didn't know what it was. So I started different Instagram pages. One was about cooking, the other one was about, so, I was really trying to find my purpose, and like, what do I actually enjoy to do in life? Because I knew that my job wasn't my job, but I had no clue about what else I could do. So I came across from an ad, I think, on Instagram, people working online. I didn't know that this was a thing at all. I didn't realize that people were making money working from home, and it's like this world opened for me, and I was really excited and started reading about it and thinking about what I could do. And I did start as a virtual assistant, so doing small jobs and doing anything really, because I was like, I feel like for once, after 10 years, I'm on the right path. This is something that really excites me, something that I never had in my previous job. I was never excited for a project. It was just a job. Yeah, so this is the start. That's how everything started, with the birth of my daughter. I really need to say thanks to her.
Nice. And I can relate to several of these moments, because I also started as a VA, and I
Ah,
also went through a phase where I was just trying different things to figure it out what to do. So
it's a very common story, I believe.
yeah, but it's something that is yeah, that feeling of looking for something, that you are not in the right place before, and
Yeah.
you are looking for something else. So yeah, I feel that a lot of people can relate to that, and that's the beauty also of sharing that pieces of our stories, because the other person can
Yeah, I
relate
can
to that.
relate. Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one, but definitely not. Like there's a lot of people. I have felt stuck in their job. I met so many since I started, sharing my story online.
Mm. And how do you think sharing your story has impacted your business?
A lot, like in a good way. It impacted a lot because, as you were saying, like we can all relate to these kind of stories. And as women, as moms, like a lot of time the path is the same. And I don't know if you have kids, but like for me, it was about not feeling like I was already not enjoying my job. And then after I had my kid and I had to go back after maternity leave, I had to go back to the office for 1 year, and I really felt the difference. I really felt like I wasn't able to have a career anymore because I was like left on a side, knowing that my kid might be sick at any moment. So they weren't really giving me any responsibility anymore. So I felt really, really deflated. And I know now that it's a very, very common story. So part of it was helped me because, a lot of my clients are moms, but a lot of my clients are foreigners, for example. So I live abroad. I live in a country that wasn't in the country where I was born. So a lot of people who work with me are as well, like either Italians or like they come from somewhere else, because we tend to stick with each other. So like they really understand how I felt like being somewhere else that is not known to me, and then having problems in the job. So it's not the same thing as you had you are near your hometown with your friends and you got problems. So like, I was pretty much alone, and I wasn't enjoying my life for a while. So definitely it had a big impact on the way I connect with other people in my business.
Mm. Yeah, and I love that you bring that because in my experience, like when you share, yeah, your context, people really understand the journey that you have been going through, and they can feel like, for example, if you are in a similar situation to them, how you can really understand what they are going through, and in the other way around. So yeah,
Yeah.
really that could uh, build that connection
Yes.
between human and human, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
at the end of the
absolutely.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did you get involved specifically into system and ThriveCart and that?
It was a long journey as well, that one. I think I've always known that I like tech. I was a techie person, and with a techie brain, I love solving problems and fixing things. That was the only thing that I knew actually when I started researching about online businesses. I knew that that was my thing, but I didn't know how to use it then, and to how to create a business. So as we were saying before, I tried really everything, knowing that I had an eye, like a skill for learning new platforms, to like putting things together, connecting together. And it just came up like quite organically. People started asking me to implement and set up things for them. At first I was charging very low, so they were happy for me to experiment and learn new platforms, and that's how I learned them. I strongly believe that despite all this talk online that you need to raise your prices and you need to charge higher, I think you can definitely, but you need to also deliver a great experience. So I didn't mind when I was at the start of my journey to charge less, because I needed to learn. I needed to become the best. I wasn't born the best in ThriveCart. I didn't even know what it was until like a year and a half ago. But I am now, because I went gradually and charged what for my knowledge and for my experience. And now that I am the expert, then I can raise my prices with confidence.
Nice. And you mentioned now just about the solving problem and that
Yeah.
skill. And I have read how that's connected to your background as a scientist. Can you tell
Yes.
us a bit about that connection between
I
something that you use now and something that is part of your background?
Yeah, I think that is really so. I don't regret anything about my past, because it brought me to have the skills that I have now to apply in my job. And I think a lot of people, a lot of women who do my type of work, so OBMs, tech experts, tech VAs, I've got this thing of like being able to look at someone's business and find like the fault and find where they could do better, they could save time. And it's just something that is in our brain different from people who are maybe a bit more creative. They just want to create, and they don't care a lot about how. Instead, I am passionate about the how. I'm curious, I would say. So as a scientist, I was curious to find out different things. And then as an entrepreneur now, I really want to, I'm never like, oh, I cannot fix that. I'm stubborn as well, and I try and fix something until it's fixed. So I don't give up easily. And I think this is a skill that people appreciate, because a lot of people don't, a lot of my clients don't like to spend a lot of time in fixing tech things, but I get really excited when there's something to fix, which sounds really lame, but that's what I enjoy.
It's not. And just as you said, it's a complementary skill.
Yeah,
So some people has one type of skills and some others,
yeah,
and how you work together well because you
yeah,
are complementing each other. So
yes,
yeah, absolutely. And I love how, yeah, and you mentioned this before, how this everything brings you to this point. So all this background and your experience in the science field is also bringing you lessons that you can apply now, and that's something that they really enjoy when working on the personal brand story of my
Uh-huh.
clients, because it's like you always find these common threads of things
Yeah,
that was there from even when you were a child. I'm sure
absolutely.
there
Yes.
are things there that is like that skill, that curiosity was there, and that vision of overviewing and trying to solve the problem. I'm sure you have stories also about that as even young age and all that.
Yes, yes, definitely. And another thing that helped me, that is not related to business, but thanks to my degree, I actually met my husband. So I always think like if I sometimes you might get into a like a sad mood and say, oh, I wasted 10 years of my life in the wrong job. Absolutely not, because I met him without that specific degree. I wouldn't have come to the UK. I wouldn't have been given the job, and I wouldn't have met him. So everything happens for a reason. So I'm really happy about my path and my story now. And the other thing that, yeah, you're really right. Apart from the scientist fact and science skills, another thing that I had since I was young is the being introvert, and I recently added it into my mission. And what we said at the beginning, that I like to say to my clients, you don't need to be loud to make money, which it's something that I'm really passionate about, because um, one of the reasons why I wasn't enjoying my job is also because I was working really hard, and I was being really, even if I wasn't keen on the job, I have a very strong working etiquette. So I always give the best, but I wasn't getting promoted. I wasn't getting praised or anything because I was shy. So because I wasn't as loud as my other colleagues, I wasn't as I wasn't screaming about my skills. I was just, I like to be behind the scenes and quietly do my job. But in big companies like that, it's very hard to stand out. So I just recently realized how that is really part of my personality, and it's something that doesn't stop me now in my job from being successful. It doesn't matter whether I'm shy, introvert, whether I'm creative, my brain, I just can build my business the way I want. So for example, if I don't like to show up on video, I do like it, so I don't mind it, but I always tell my clients, if they don't like it, we can build, the funnels that I build behind the scenes, email sequences, a course, things that are passive, that they don't need to interact a lot with other people if that's not what they want. So it just doesn't mean if you're a shy or introvert person that you cannot have a business or you cannot be successful. And I only recently realized, maybe I was trying to hide it, but now I really feel strongly about helping more women to realize that.
Mm.
Do you
Yes,
consider yourself an introvert?
yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And especially when interacting in-person events are really challenging. Online, I am confident. I can, uh, for us, for example, I
Yeah,
just contact you. Hey, can you be interested in being a guest? So I am okay with that kind of
yeah,
interactions online. But in person, they are more challenging to me. And
yes,
yeah, definitely, I consider myself an
yeah.
introvert. And again, I am okay with being on video, but that has been a process.
Oh, yeah.
And
For me
as you
too. Yeah.
say, like finding the way, I always like to also encourage people to find their way and their style of communication so they build up. So you challenge yourself, but in a way that is helping you and not just making you feel small.
No,
So yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, I agree. And you will be surprised of how many people are introverts, but they don't look like. So they show up, they do, but then it's because they are finding the way that works for them. But yeah, for me, as you are saying, the important thing is that you don't push yourself too much. If this is something that you really hate, then there are so many other ways. So like this, so marketing is very various. So you can choose I don't know, you can do blogging if you don't want to do Instagram lives. It will take maybe longer. I do think it takes a little bit longer if you don't show your face, but it's possible, and it's actually more sustainable if you use If you're consistent, even if something, some type of marketing in which you don't show your face all the time.
Mm. Yeah, and yeah, in all kind of strategies, patience and consistency will be
Yeah,
key anyway.
yeah,
So,
yeah, totally.
um, yeah, I would like to ask you, have you felt sometime that you were like revealing too much or oversharing? Were you concerned at some point about that?
I think, yeah, there's a fine line when you are too vulnerable online. There's a fine line between sounding miserable, so sounding that you're either complaining or you are admitting that you're not as good. So, for example, even if I'm not perfect in my job, nobody is, but I tend not to say when I do something wrong, obviously, because you want to show, you're confident, you're good, you never fail. And it's the same thing with at the beginning. And I wasn't sharing enough about me being an introvert because I was worried about what my clients would think. I didn't
Mm.
realize it was actually could be my strength to share that I was an introvert. Um, Yes. What about you? I'm curious to know what you think about this.
Yeah, I think what is important is
Yeah.
to share the lesson
Oh,
more
yeah, yeah,
than
yeah.
the details of the story. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
you can decide which level of details you want to share.
Yeah.
But sometimes what is more important is what a specific moment of your story, what are the lessons that you get from there, or the realization or the
Yeah.
thoughts that bring you. So sometimes you can be comfortable just sharing like superficial level of
Mm-hmm.
the moment, but then over the time for some reason you feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, it makes sense to go a bit deeper because of
Yeah.
the feedback that I'm getting from the people, from my
Yes.
audience and that. But yeah, definitely is something that at some point I think is common to just question yourself
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, it's too much.
Yeah.
I
It's
am
a
feeling
good
comfortable.
point. You don't have to share everything. You can share the
Mm,
story in many different ways, and depending on the audience, depending on what you're doing, whether it's because you're launching something or because you just want to share, like connect with your audience, it can be the story can be told in a different way.
yeah. Yes. Um, there has been some unexpected challenges that came because of you sharing your story.
I see it's less and less common in my mindset. So, like, it took me probably years to change my mindset in being comfortable to share things like this online because I've always seen being an introvert as something that I needed to hide, which sounds silly also because it's not, people can see it. So, like, if you're in work, people recognize somebody who's quiet and somebody who's not. So, like, I felt like I needed to hide it, which is ridiculous because it's just evident that that's how I am. So I was worried about what people would think, people who knew me, um, if I talked out loud about me being an introvert. I don't know why. It was just something that I think in society is seen as something that is not good, because as I was saying, in my job you needed to be confident, extroverted, chatty if you want to be successful. So being quiet wasn't a good skill to have. It wasn't a skill. It's like just a condition. It's like the way I am. So I didn't want to kind of admit it and say, right, I'm an introvert. I'm opening the curtains of my personality, when probably people were going to be like, yeah, we knew it. It's not, it's just in front of our eyes. So yeah, it was more not a challenge with other people or with myself. We just
Mm,
let myself share whatever I wanted to share without thinking about what people were going to think of me.
yeah. Yeah, and that's an interesting point of view. It's like
Yeah.
it was not about the people, but about
No.
yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
And did you ever wonder if anyone would care about your story?
I did, and well, the answer is probably they care in a good way. So like they don't care
Mm,
in the way of like they don't judge me, but
mm,
they are actually yes. So I had every time I share something about me being introvert, I have people answering to whatever it is, an email, a story on Instagram, because I realized a lot of many more people that we think are introvert, even those who show their extrovert side, but inside they feel introvert. So it's something that is very relatable. So yeah,
and what
I'm
about
gonna do it more and more.
nice? What about that having that scientific background? Have you get some feedback of people like having a different background of what they do now, or some comments around
Yes,
that?
I always get my clients. Some of them are I've got a similar brain to mine. They just don't want to spend time in doing the setup, so I do it for them. But a lot of other people are more creative. So one of my good clients, she's an astrologer, for example. So very very different from the scientific brain. She's all into planets and stars. So she always comments on this fact that, as you were saying before, like we're really complementary. So
Mm,
she's all in the clouds, and I bring her down to earth, saying, "Okay, we this is a strategy we need to do." So it's even the scientific brain. I guess people realize that my ideal client realize that they don't have a scientific brain. So sharing the fact that I have got this like problem solving like skill and that I can fix things. Yes, it does
mm,
help. Also connecting with the people they are the opposite of me. So maybe they are searching for some help, or they just want some, to help each other. Sometimes it's just, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That's combination of some
Mm,
more expansive creative mind and then the organized
hmm.
and the one that has
Yeah,
the capacity to have like the big
yeah.
picture of the things and
Hmm.
yeah.
How are you for tech wise? Do you enjoy solving problems and?
Yeah, I am also a tech person. I like
Hmm.
to structures and the
Yeah.
systems and all that.
Hmm.
And focusing on the personal brand story, it's nice to have like the creativity of the
Yeah.
stories and finding the connections. That's
Yes.
what I love, like finding the connection with stories and something that is connected to the benefit of what you offer. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Nice. Um, can you tell me a bit about one pivotal moment for your business?
Um, so I actually pivoted my business at the very beginning. Let's say after 1 year that I started my business, I started coaching virtual assistants because I was a bit influenced by a lot of talk online. I was working hard, long hours, and I just wanted to work less by still helping people. And I did realize that it wasn't for me, and I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. So I was still trying to fake that I wasn't an introvert, which I think a coach can be an introvert, of course. But in my case, it was more about trying to pretend to be someone that I wasn't. And I think I needed to do a bit more of self-discovering because, like, I don't know about you, but like since I started my business, I've never been, I never, thought about myself and my mindset so much. So before, you go to the office, you do your job, and then you go home. And now I realize this is very much my brand and the way I communicate. I needed to do some self discovering and understanding and being comfortable with sharing the fact that I was an introvert because I really enjoy the job that I do now. I really enjoy doing the setups. So there's nothing wrong in doing the setups before. I just decided to pivot because I was influenced by what other people were doing, but I don't think it was my thing at all.
Mm,
So it was pivotal, and I pivoted back, but it was still related to the fact that of this introvert and being comfortable with saying I'm an introvert. I like being behind the scenes, and this doesn't mean that I'm not going to make a lot of money. I'm not going to have a widely successful business. And I remember one thing actually when it was in September last year, 2023. I went to this event and one of the speakers was talking about how the thing that we try to hide is actually the thing that we should showcase more. And that was a light bulb moment for me, because I was like, straight away, the thing that I'm trying to hide is me being shy. So I actually realized that when I first started my business, that was the first idea I had, was like, I want to help shy people, introvert people, to understand that they can do what I'm doing. You don't have to be extrovert. You can do whatever you want. You can launch a business. You can leave your country. You can do all these things. But then for some reason I forgot along the way. But that talk made me go back to that thought. And it was really a light bulb moment. So I changed my messaging, my mission, and it's all about helping introverts having a business without being loud.
That's nice. And yeah, I totally agree. Entrepreneurship is a self-discovery journey for sure.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God, so much. I didn't
And,
really expect that when I started. So much time spent crying, journaling, understanding what's going on in my head.
yeah, it's as you say, it's just a process to understand who we
Yeah,
are, being comfortable with
yeah.
sharing who we are,
Hmm.
and standing by us, right? After that change and going back, because you tried one new thing and then you went back, how did you decide how to refresh your messaging? Because you had a new messaging and then back to the other. How much you share about that process of going back to the previous idea? How did you decide how to handle this?
I felt that something wasn't aligned. There was something, when you're like, you got this feeling that things are not working very well, not because you don't have skills in sales or marketing. So I was ticking all the boxes and doing all the things, and things weren't really working the way I wanted. And so when I did think, oh, maybe I should go back to pretty much what I was doing before, but like in a different capacity, like I went back to being an OBM, not a VA. Just the thought of it just made me a bit relieved. So that's when I understood that maybe there was something that I couldn't really see, but was telling me that that wasn't the good choice for me. So like I feel much more comfortable in what I'm doing now. And for the messaging, yeah, it was very different, obviously, but I did not stop completely to offer tech services. So I was still like in that field. So I just had to, completely revamp my offers and my messaging, and do again like new market research, which you have to do it anyway, every 1 year, 6 months, because you always want to learn about your ideal client. So yeah, it was a long process. So I do understand why people don't pivot all the time, because you need to pretty much change everything. Yeah, did I answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, I agree that all the time your business is going to evolve. So
Mhm.
your messaging is going to evolve as
Yeah,
well. And it's when for some people at the beginning of their journey as a business owner, they are really worried about having the perfect website
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
everything and it's like if your business is going well, your website
yeah,
will need a lot of refreshing in
yeah,
just next year will be something different because it's going to evolve. You
yeah,
need
yeah,
to
yeah.
try things and figure it out things. So it's not a perfect something as perfect. It's
No,
going to
absolutely,
be
yes.
a living thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're gonna change minds so many times that it's really not worth spending too much on a website or on a page or anything.
Mm. Have you at some point get some help in to help you defining your messaging and finding the way of sharing um, your messaging and your narrative?
Yes, I did a power hour with a copywriter some time ago. So she was doing a page for me, I think, a couple of sales pages, and before then she did like a brand voice document, which was really helpful for me also to think about, like, what I stand for, what my unique selling point is, what comes out from my personality. Yes, that was really useful. To be honest, I should look at that document a bit more often, because it's definitely that's who I am. And it evolves and it changes, but still, like, the basic and the foundations, that's me. That's what, for example, like, I love sarcasm. So we identified that I needed to put be more sarcasm, or like stupid jokes, British jokes, in my captions. Something that I wasn't doing before, because I didn't think about it. But honestly, I do stupid jokes all the time, so that should definitely be in my copy. And then I worked with different coaches. They were mainly like business coaches, but there's always been a part of it was about messaging. But there's so much to learn. It's something that I want to explore more, because like it's interesting how words and your brand can communicate like your value in different ways, depending on the words that you use in your content, and when you describe your offers, or on your website.
Mm. Yeah, and the thing specifically with the using your story in your messaging is that you are just creating yourself opportunities to talk about the benefits of working with you,
Hmm.
and your unique approach to work and your experiences and what are your values, what is important to you, and bringing that elements of your stories, and it's an easy way to connect with you as a person, but
Yeah.
also highlighting what makes you unique, which is
Yes.
you are a unique combination of your background, your personality, your expertise, and all that.
Hmm.
And sharing that journey is, a lot of opportunities to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
cool. So, just another question about the personal brand is like, what do you think is the part that surprised people the most?
About my brand.
Yes.
Oh, what a question. I need to think about this one. um, the surprise people the most. Um, I think what people, so because not really because of the fact that I'm an introvert, but because of how people see me from outside, things like I'm just thinking people have always been so surprised that I was the one between me and my sister who left the country. So people would have never said that I could just take decisions like so drastically and be like, yeah, I'm just moving to the UK. Yeah, tomorrow, yeah, I'll book a flight. And like, I'm really, for some things, I'm fearless, and I love the risk. So the fact that we were saying like I pivoted so much, I changed my office so much, is because I don't mind trying different things a lot until I find, maybe it's part of the, being a scientist, experimenting. Yeah, it's always like going back to that. But yeah, I think maybe people don't expect that from me. I just remember all the comments of my friends and family when I left. They're like, you are the last person that would say would leave your country without knowing anyone, without knowing what was going to happen. But yeah, that's part of me that probably doesn't really match with the being quiet and shy. But for me, it's just second nature. So like, if it's something that is it's not sure how it's going to go, but it's something that there's something that tells me you need to try it, I will try it. Even if, so like, leaving my job without having enough clients to cover my job's pay, I did it. So I left it when I had one client, because I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. So I don't mind the risk, but which doesn't mean that I'm crazy, and I'm not. I'm actually quite practical and quite sensible. Yeah, I think people don't expect that.
That's cool. And yeah, I love how it's connected again with the being open to
Yeah.
experiment and try different
Mm.
things. Yeah, love that. So yeah, how tell us a bit about how can people find more about what you do and how you help them?
Yeah, so I've very recently redone all my website. So it's www.ilariasambi.com. I'll give you the link later. And then I would love for people to join my email list. I have a very good, if I say so, lead magnet, which is a free resource. It's called Launch Your Freebie in 2 weeks, because I help a lot of clients with funnels. I am really passionate about helping anyone to create a really good freebie so they can have like subscribe people to their email list every day. And in this roadmap, I help you to create it in 2 weeks for free. And I've had really good feedback about it. So if you download that roadmap, then you will join my email list. And I send weekly tech and strategy tips for making more money without being loud. So I'd love to have all the listeners in my email list.
Nice. So thank you so much for talking about your experience and sharing your insights. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ilaria.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Who Cares About My Story, the podcast on how sharing your personal brand story can impact your business. If you found this episode valuable, consider subscribing or leaving a review. Your feedback means a lot. Did something resonate with you today? Please share your thoughts on the podcast platform or on your socials. I would love to hear from you and give you a shout out. Just tag me on Instagram at Reme Mancera. I can't wait for you to meet our next guest. Until then, remember, your story is relevant and worth telling.